1. We're taking a closer look at a classic beauty that's up for grabs on Craigslist, a 1962 Rambler American convertible. This little red gem is sure to turn heads and make you feel like you've stepped back in time. First off, let's talk about the price. At $11,500, it's not exactly a steal, but for a classic car in this condition, it's definitely worth considering. The seller mentions that the car is in very good shape, with a solid body and frame, original interior, and a good top. That's music to any classic car lover's ears. Under the hood, you'll find an overhead valve 6-cylinder engine paired with an automatic transmission. While it may not be the most powerful setup out there, it's definitely got that classic charm that's hard to resist. One thing to note is that the paint isn't original, and the seller suggests giving it a good compound and wax to really make it shine. But hey, a little TLC never hurt anyone, right? The ad also mentions that the car has all its original chrome, which is in good condition. That's a big plus for anyone looking for an authentic classic experience. Now I know what you might be thinking. 108,275 miles is a lot for a classic car, but hear me out. These old beauties were built to last, and with proper care and maintenance, they can keep on chugging for many more miles to come. The seller seems to be upfront about the car's condition, which is always a good sign. They mention that it runs and drives but could use a little TLC. That's pretty standard for a car of this age, and it's good to know what you're getting into before making a purchase. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic convertible with a ton of character, this 1962 Rambler American might just be the one for you. It's located in Salem, Connecticut, so if you're in the area, why not set up an appointment to check it out in person? Who knows? You might just fall in love with this little red beauty and make it your own. 2. We've got a real treat for you. A 1966 Ford Mustang Coupe that's up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic pony car is sure to get your heart racing, even if it's not in perfect condition. Let's start with the good stuff. Under the hood, you'll find a 200 cubic inch 6-cylinder engine paired with a 3-speed automatic transmission. The seller has put a ton of work into this car with new parts galore. We're talking a new fuel tank, fuel lines, fuel pump, brakes, brake lines, master cylinder, engine tune-up, radiator hoses, belt, exhaust manifold, battery, cables, motor mounts, transmission mounts, and even new tires. Phew, that's a lot of new stuff. The seller has also tried to keep the car as original as possible, which is always a plus for classic car enthusiasts. And with 97,000 miles on the odometer, this Mustang has plenty of life left in it. Now, let's talk about the not-so-good stuff. The seller admits that the car does have some issues, which is to be expected for a vehicle that's almost 60 years old. The engine idles a little rough and may need a carb cleaning, and the transmission has an oil drip that will need a new pan gasket. There's also some rust on both quarter panels near the rear window, and a couple of other spots showing. But hey, that's all part of the charm of owning a classic car, right? It's not going to be perfect, but it's got character and history that you just can't find in a modern vehicle. The seller is asking $8,500 for this 1966 Mustang, which seems like a fair price considering all the work that's been done to it. And if you're interested in taking a closer look, the seller encourages you to give them a call or text to set up a time to check it out in person. One thing to note, the seller is upfront about not wanting someone to pick the car apart and point out all the flaws. They know it's not perfect, and they don't need help selling it. So if you're serious about buying this classic Mustang, come with an open mind and an appreciation for its history and potential. Overall, if you're in the market for a classic Mustang with a lot of new parts and a bit of character, this 1966 coupe might just be the one for you. It's not going to be a show car, but it's a solid driver that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. So why not take a chance on this piece of American automotive history? You might just fall in love with it, flaws and all. 3. We've got a bit of a project car for you, a 1967 Dodge Coronet that's up for sale on Craigslist. Now, I'm going to be straight with you. This car is going to need some work, but if you're up for a challenge and love the idea of bringing a classic muscle car back to life, keep reading. First things first, let's talk about what this Coronet is missing. The seller notes that there's no engine under the hood, which is a pretty big deal. However, the car does come with a transmission installed, so that's one less thing you'll need to worry about. The ad also mentions that the car needs restoration, which is pretty clear from the lack of an engine. But don't let that scare you off just yet. The seller includes some new exterior panels, weather stripping, and even new seat covers with the sale. That means you'll have a bit of a head start on the restoration process. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A car without an engine is basically just a big paperweight. But hear me out. The 1967 Dodge Coronet is a classic muscle car with a ton of potential. With the right engine and some elbow grease, you could have a real head turner on your hands. The seller doesn't mention anything about the condition of the body or frame, so that's something you'll want to check out in person before making a decision. But if the bones of the car are solid, this could be a really fun project to take on. One big plus is that the car comes with a clean title. That means you won't have to deal with any legal headaches or paperwork issues down the line. As for the price, the seller is asking $5,500 for this Coronet. That might seem like a lot for a car without an engine, but keep in mind that you're paying for the potential of the car, not necessarily its current condition. And with the new parts included in the sale, you're getting a bit of a discount on the restoration process. Overall, if you're a Mopar fan with a love for classic muscle cars and a willingness to put in some work, this 1967 Dodge Coronet might be the project car of your dreams. It's not going to be a quick or easy fix, but the end result could be truly spectacular. Just make sure you know what you're getting into before taking the plunge. This is definitely a car for someone with the time, skills, and resources to bring it back to life. 4. We've got a bit of a diamond in the rough for you. A 1967 Pontiac Firebird that's up for grabs on Craigslist. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This car is going to need a lot of work. But if you're a fan of classic muscle cars and love the thrill of a good project, this might just be the one for you. First off, let's talk about what this Firebird is missing. The seller notes that there's no motor or transmission included in the sale, which is a pretty significant omission. The interior is also only partially complete, so you'll need to source some replacement parts there as well. But here's where things get interesting. According to the seller, this Firebird is a documented 4-speed car, and it's one of only around 1,400 built with that particular configuration. That means it's a pretty rare bird, pun intended, and could be a really valuable piece of Pontiac history once it's restored. The ad also mentions that the car comes with some extra parts, which is always a plus when you're taking on a project like this. You'll want to get a full inventory of what's included before making an offer, but it's good to know that you won't be starting completely from scratch. Now, let's talk about the condition of the car. The seller rates it as fair, which is a bit of a red flag. It's hard to say exactly what that means without seeing the car in person, but it's safe to assume that there's going to be some rust and other issues to contend with. The odometer reading of 1,000 miles is also a bit suspect. It's possible that it's rolled over, or that the odometer was replaced at some point. But here's the thing. If you're looking for a perfect turnkey classic car, this probably isn't the one for you. This Firebird is a project, plain and simple. It's going to take a lot of time, money, and effort to get it back on the road. But if you're up for the challenge and have a vision for what this car could be, it might just be worth it. The seller is asking $5,900 for this Firebird, which seems like a fair price, considering the rarity of the car and the potential it has. Of course, you'll want to factor in the cost of a new engine, transmission, and interior, as well as any bodywork and other repairs that might be needed. But if you're willing to put in the work, you could end up with a really special car that's worth a lot more than what you paid for it. One final note. The seller mentions that delivery is available, which could be a big plus if you're not local to the area. Just be sure to get all the details worked out beforehand, so there are no surprises. 5. We've got a real treat for you. A 1975 Plymouth Scamp that's just begging for a Restomod overhaul. If you're not familiar with the Scamp, it's essentially a twin to the more well-known Dodge Dart, but with its own unique style and charm. First off, let's talk about the condition of this Scamp. The seller notes that it's a West Coast car, which is always a good sign when it comes to classic vehicles. That means it's likely been spared from the ravages of rust and other weather-related damage that can plague cars in other parts of the country. The seller also mentions that there's no cancer, rust on the body, which is a huge plus. Now let's talk about the engine. The Scamp currently has a 225 cubic inch slant-6 engine under the hood, which is a reliable and efficient power plant. However, the seller notes that the engine doesn't currently run, so you'll need to factor in the cost of getting it up and running again, or swapping it out entirely. But here's where things get really interesting. The seller suggests that this Scamp is ready for a serious upgrade in the form of a 383 or 440 cubic inch V8 engine, or even bigger. With that kind of power under the hood, this Scamp could be transformed from a mild-mannered street car to a serious drag strip contender. The ad also mentions that the automatic transmission is in good shape, which is one less thing to worry about when it comes to the drivetrain. And with a clear title in hand, you'll be able to get this Scamp registered and on the road, or track, in no time. As for the body, the seller describes it as being in excellent condition and ready for a resto-mod overhaul. That means you've got a solid foundation to work with, but also plenty of room to put your own personal touch on the car. Whether you want to keep it looking stock or go for a more modern custom look, the possibilities are endless. Now, let's talk about the price. The seller is asking $6,200 or best offer for this Scamp, which seems like a fair price considering the potential it has. Of course, you'll want to factor in the cost of any necessary repairs or upgrades, but if you're handy with a wrench and have a vision for what this car could be, it could be a really smart investment. One thing to keep in mind, the odometer has rolled over, so the actual mileage on this Scamp is likely higher than the 150,000 miles shown. But with a classic car like this, mileage isn't always the most important factor. It's more about the overall condition of the car and its potential for future use. 6. We're diving into a classic beauty that's up for grabs on Craigslist, a 1978 Oldsmobile Cutlass with T-tops. This white stunner is rocking a powerful V8 engine with a 4.3-liter motor that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. Now, let's talk about the nitty-gritty. The seller has put in some serious work to keep this Cutlass running like a dream. The transmission has been rebuilt from the ground up so you know it's ready to handle whatever you throw at it. Plus, they've replaced the rear main seal, valve covers, water pump, spark plugs, and cables, so you can trust that this car has been well maintained. With a fresh oil change, new filters, and a smooth ride, this Cutlass is ready to hit the road. And can we talk about those T-tops? There's nothing quite like cruising down the highway with the wind in your hair and the sun on your face. Now, I know what you might be thinking. A car from 1978 with 154,000 miles on the odometer? Is it really worth the $6,150 price tag? Well, let me tell you, when you find a classic like this with a clean title and in good condition, it's definitely worth considering. Of course, as with any used car, there may be some minor issues that pop up along the way. But from what the seller has shared, it seems like they've taken great care to keep this Cutlass in top shape. So, if you're in the market for a vintage ride with plenty of character and a whole lot of power, this 1978 Oldsmobile Cutlass might just be the one for you. Don't miss out on the chance to own a piece of American automotive history. 7. We've got a real treat for you. A 1963 Ford Fairlane 500 sedan that's been cherished by the same family for its entire life. This classic beauty is a true survivor, and it's looking for a new home where it can continue to be loved and appreciated. First things first, let's talk about the heart of this Fairlane. A rebuilt 6-cylinder engine that's paired with a 3-speed manual transmission on the column. While the motor runs well, the seller does note that there's currently no brake pressure, so that's something to keep in mind if you're considering taking this beauty home. But let's be real. The lack of brakes is just a minor hiccup when you're talking about a car that's been so well preserved over the years. This Fairlane is 100% bone stock and original, which is a rare find in today's world of modified and customized classics. And can we talk about the fact that this car was literally driven by a little old lady? You know that means it's been treated with the utmost care and respect throughout its life. It's not every day you come across a classic car with such a heartwarming backstory. Now I know some of you might be thinking, $3,000 for a car that needs brake work? Is it really worth it? But let me tell you, when you're talking about a piece of automotive history like this Fairlane, it's definitely worth considering. Plus, the seller is offering a clean title and keys, so you know you're getting a legitimate deal. Of course, as with any classic car, there may be some additional work needed to get this Fairlane in tip-top shape. But that's all part of the fun of owning a vintage ride, the opportunity to put your own personal touch on a piece of history. So if you're in the Kennewick, Washington area and you're looking for a project car that's got a whole lot of character and charm, this 1963 Ford Fairlane 500 sedan might just be the one for you. Don't miss out on the chance to own a true survivor from the golden age of American automobiles. 8. We've got a real gem for you, a 1985 Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS that's ready to tear up the streets. This classic beauty is the real deal, with a genuine Supersport VIN number that proves its pedigree. First things first, let's talk about what makes this Monte Carlo so special. Under the hood, you'll find a beastly 5.0-liter V8 305 engine that's been enhanced with Holley headers and an Edelbrock carburetor. This combination delivers some serious power and performance, making this car an absolute blast to drive. But the upgrades don't stop there. This Monte Carlo also features a quick shifter and speed shifter, which means you'll be able to bang through the gears with ease. And with good tires all around, you can be confident that this car will handle like a dream. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, what's the catch? Well, the seller does note that this Monte Carlo could use some cosmetic work to bring it back to its former glory. The paint, interior, and headliner all need some attention, but that's to be expected with a car that's been around for 40 years. But here's the thing, even with those minor cosmetic issues, this Monte Carlo still runs and drives like a beast. And with a clean title in the seller's name and current registration, you can be sure that you're getting a legitimate ride. Plus, can we talk about that LA Dodger blue color? It's the perfect shade for a classic muscle car like this one, and it's sure to turn heads wherever you go. Now, I know the $10,900 price tag might seem a bit steep for a car that needs some work, but when you consider the rarity and performance of this genuine Supersport Monte Carlo, it's actually a pretty solid deal. So, if you're in the market for a classic muscle car that's got plenty of power and potential, this 1985 Chevrolet Monte Carlo SS might just be the one for you. With a little bit of elbow grease and some TLC, you could have a real showstopper on your hands. Don't miss out on the chance to own a piece of American automotive history. 9. We've got a real treat for you, a 1973 Lincoln Continental Mark IV that's been cherished by its original owner for nearly 50 years. This classic luxury car is in excellent condition and is ready to find a new home with someone who appreciates its history and style. First things first, let's talk about the numbers. This Mark IV has just 99,000 actual miles on the odometer, which is incredibly low for a car of this age. That's a testament to the care and attention that the original owner has given to this vehicle over the years. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 460 four-barrel V8 engine that's paired with an automatic transmission. This combination delivers smooth, effortless performance that's perfect for cruising down the highway or turning heads on the city streets. But the real star of the show here is the condition of this Mark IV. The seller notes that it's clean inside and out, with only minor cosmetic issues that are to be expected with a car of this age. The photos show a vehicle that's been meticulously maintained and preserved, with a shine that's sure to impress. And let's talk about the features. This Mark IV has power windows, air conditioning, power locks, and power steering, making it a true luxury car that's a pleasure to drive. Plus, with collector plates and current registration, you can be sure that this car is ready to hit the road whenever you are. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, $8,900 for a 50-year-old car. Is it really worth it? But let me tell you, when you're talking about a classic like this Mark IV with its original owner and low mileage, it's definitely a fair price. These cars are becoming increasingly rare and desirable, and finding one in this condition is a real score. Of course, as with any classic car, there may be some minor issues that need to be addressed. But the seller has been upfront about the cosmetic issues, and they seem to be relatively minor. With a little bit of TLC, this Mark IV could be an absolute showstopper. So, if you're in the market for a classic luxury car that's been lovingly maintained by its original owner, this 1973 Lincoln Continental Mark IV might just be the one for you. Don't miss out on the chance to own a piece of automotive history that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. 10. We've got a real gem for you, a 1973 Mercury Monterey that's been lovingly owned by an elderly lady for all of its 98,000 miles. This classic coupe is a true time capsule, with all of its original paperwork and features still intact. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this Monterey. The seller notes that it's in good shape both inside and out, which is a real testament to the care that its previous owner took in maintaining it. The car has been sheltered over the years, so there's no rust to worry about. A common issue with classic cars of this age. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 8-cylinder engine that's paired with a factory dual exhaust system. This combination delivers a classic muscle car sound and performance that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. But the real star of the show here is the originality of this Monterey. From the paperwork to the features, everything is just as it was when this car rolled off the assembly line back in 1973. That's a rare find in today's world of modified and customized classics. And let's talk about the price. At just $2,195, this Monterey is an absolute steal. You're getting a classic car that runs and drives well, with all of its original features and paperwork, for less than the price of most used cars on the market today. Of course, as with any classic car, there may be some minor issues that need to be addressed. The seller doesn't mention any specific problems, but it's always a good idea to give any car a thorough inspection before making a purchase. But overall, this 1973 Mercury Monterey is a real find. It's a classic car that's been well maintained and preserved, with all of its original features and paperwork still intact. And at this price point, it's an opportunity that's hard to pass up. So, if you're in the market for a classic coupe that's got plenty of character and history, this 1973 Mercury Monterey might just be the one for you. Don't miss out on the chance to own a piece of automotive history that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. 11. We've got a real classic for you, a 1966 Ford Mustang that's ready to hit the road and turn some heads. This coupe has undergone an older restoration, and while it may have some flaws, it's still a real beauty that's sure to impress. First things first, let's talk about what makes this Mustang so special. Under the hood, you'll find a straight-six engine that's paired with a 3-speed manual transmission. This combination delivers a classic driving experience that's sure to put a smile on your face every time you get behind the wheel. Inside, you'll find a nice pony interior that's been well maintained over the years. It's a real throwback to the classic Mustangs of the 1960s, and it's sure to impress anyone who appreciates vintage style. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, what about those flaws? Well, the seller is upfront about the fact that this Mustang has some imperfections. It's not a trailer queen that's been kept in pristine condition, but rather a real driver that's meant to be enjoyed out on the road. But here's the thing, those flaws are just part of the character of a classic car like this. They tell the story of its history and the adventures it's been on over the years. And with an older restoration, you know that this Mustang has been well cared for and maintained. Plus, at $10,900, this Mustang is priced fairly for a classic car of this caliber. You're getting a real piece of automotive history that's ready to be driven and enjoyed, without the astronomical price tag that some classic Mustangs can command. Of course, as with any classic car, it's always a good idea to give it a thorough inspection before making a purchase. But based on the seller's description and the photos provided, this 1966 Ford Mustang seems like a real gem that's worth considering. So, if you're in the market for a classic Mustang that's got plenty of character and style, this 1966 coupe might just be the one for you. With its straight-six engine, manual transmission, and pony interior, it's a real throwback to the golden age of American muscle cars. Don't miss out on the chance to own a piece of automotive history that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. 12. We've got a real head-turner for you, a 1985 Chevrolet Monte Carlo that's been customized to perfection. This classic ride is ready to hit the streets and make a statement wherever it goes. First things first, let's talk about what's under the hood. This Monte Carlo is powered by a 4.3-liter fuel-injected engine that delivers plenty of power and performance. It's a real step up from the carbureted engines of the past, and it's sure to provide a smooth and reliable driving experience. But the real star of the show here is the custom work that's been done to this car. From the spoke rims to the dual exhaust, every detail has been carefully considered and executed to create a truly one-of-a-kind ride. Inside, you'll find a Pioneer stereo system that's been upgraded with amps and subs. It's the perfect setup for cruising down the highway with your favorite tunes blasting. And with a new windshield and rear window, you can enjoy that music in comfort and style. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, $9,000 for a 1985 Monte Carlo. Is it really worth it? But let me tell you, when you consider the custom work and upgrades that have been done to this car, it's actually a pretty solid deal. Of course, as with any used car, it's always a good idea to give it a thorough inspection before making a purchase. The seller doesn't mention any specific issues or problems, but it's still important to do your due diligence and make sure everything is in good working order. But overall, this 1985 Chevrolet Monte Carlo is a real find. It's a classic car that's been updated and customized to create a truly unique driving experience. And with a clean title and a price that's open to negotiation, it's definitely worth considering if you're in the market for a statement ride. So if you're ready to turn some heads and make a statement on the streets, this 1985 Chevrolet Monte Carlo might just be the car for you. With its powerful engine, custom upgrades, and killer sound system, it's sure to be a real crowd pleaser wherever you go. Don't miss out on the chance to own a piece of automotive history that's been brought into the modern age. 13. We've got a real gem for you, a 1974 Ford Ranchero that's in absolutely excellent condition. This classic beauty is a rare find, with only 50,800 miles on the odometer and a history of careful ownership that's sure to impress. First things first, let's talk about the overall condition of this Ranchero. The seller describes it as very good, and based on the photos and description, I have to agree. The interior is absolutely pristine, with a perfect dash, headliner, carpet, and seats. The radio is in great shape too, making it the perfect soundtrack for your next cruise. But the real star of the show here is the exterior. The brown paint is in excellent condition, with no rust to be found. And with the original rims and fancy hubcaps included, this Ranchero is sure to turn heads wherever it goes. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 400 cubic inch V8 engine that's ready to roar. The seller notes that the car drives like a charm, which is a testament to the care and attention that's been given to this vehicle over the years. And let's talk about the ownership history. This Ranchero has only had 3 owners, with a father-son duo owning it before the current seller. That kind of careful ownership is rare to find, and it's a real selling point for a classic car like this. Now, I know the $14,000 price tag might seem a bit steep at first glance. But when you consider the excellent condition, low mileage, and rare find status of this Ranchero, it's actually a pretty fair price. These cars are becoming increasingly hard to find in this kind of shape, and the value is only going to go up over time. Of course, as with any classic car, it's always a good idea to give it a thorough inspection before making a purchase. But based on the seller's description and the photos provided, this 1974 Ford Ranchero seems like a real winner. So if you're in the market for a classic car that's got plenty of style, power, and history, this 1974 Ford Ranchero might just be the one for you. With its excellent condition, low mileage, and careful ownership history, it's a rare find that's sure to impress. Don't miss out on the chance to own a piece of automotive history that's ready to hit the road and turn some heads. 14. We've got an absolutely stunning 1967 Pontiac Catalina convertible that's been rebuilt to perfection. This classic beauty is a real head-turner, with a fresh paint job, new interior, and a rebuilt engine that's ready to roar. First things first, let's talk about the history of this Catalina. When the current owner purchased it back in 2013, it was in rough shape, The quarter panels were rusted out, the interior was practically non-existent, and it needed a lot of work. But the owner saw the potential in this classic ride and set out to bring it back to its former glory. Fast forward to today, and the results are absolutely incredible. The rust has been completely eliminated, thanks to the installation of original GM quarter panels. The paint job done by Mako is a stunning shade of blue that really makes this Catalina stand out from the crowd. Inside, the interior has been completely redone. From the seats to the dashboard, everything is brand new and looks absolutely pristine. The electric windows are fully functional, and while there's still some work to be done on the radio, heater, and AC, the overall interior is a real showstopper. Under the hood, you'll find a rebuilt 400 cubic inch engine that's ready to provide all the power you need for your next cruise. The car runs great, and with the new convertible roof and glass rear window, you can enjoy the wind in your hair and the sun on your face whenever you want. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, what about the odometer? Well, the seller is upfront about the fact that it's broken. But with a car that's been rebuilt to this level of quality, the mileage is really just a number. What matters is the overall condition and the care that's been put into bringing this Catalina back to life. And let's talk about the extras. The purchaser will receive skirts, a convertible cover, side chrome, a mechanic's quarter panel cover, a build sheet, and PHS data. These are the kinds of details that really set this Catalina apart and make it a true collector's item. Of course, with a price tag of $15,000, this Catalina isn't cheap. But when you consider the amount of work and care that's gone into rebuilding it, as well as the rarity of finding a classic convertible in this kind of condition, it's actually a pretty fair price. So if you're in the market for a classic ride that's been rebuilt to perfection, this 1967 Pontiac Catalina convertible might just be the one for you. With its stunning paint job, brand new interior, and rebuilt engine, it's ready to hit the road and turn some heads. Don't miss out on the chance to own a piece of automotive history that's been brought back to life. 15. We've got a real gem for you. A 1963 Chevrolet Corvair Monza 900 convertible that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. This classic beauty has been well cared for over the years, and with only 89,000 original miles on the odometer, it's got plenty of life left in it. First things first, let's talk about what makes this Corvair so special. Under the rear hood, yes, you read that right, you'll find a flat-six air-cooled engine that's paired with a 2-speed Powerglide automatic transmission. This unique mid-engine design was a real innovation back in the 1960s, and it's part of what makes the Corvair such an iconic car. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, only 95 horsepower? But trust me, this car is an absolute blast to drive. It may not be the fastest thing on the road, but it's got plenty of pep and handles like a dream. Plus, with that convertible top, you can enjoy the wind in your hair and the sun on your face whenever you want. The seller has done a great job of keeping this Corvair in good condition over the years, with a number of recent parts replacements including the master cylinder, fuel pump, generator belt, gas tank, brakes, and muffler. It's clear that this car has been well maintained and loved. Of course, as with any classic car, there are a few minor issues to be aware of. The rear window is a bit foggy, and there are no armrests or radio, although the speakers are in place. But these are small potatoes compared to the overall condition and charm of this Corvair. And let's talk about the pros. This car averages around 17 mpg in the city and 19 mpg on the highway, which is pretty impressive for a classic ride. Plus, with that working convertible top, you can enjoy the best of both worlds, the style and charm of a vintage car, with the fun and freedom of open-air driving. Now, I know the $12,000 asking price might seem a bit steep at first glance, but when you consider the rarity and condition of this Corvair, as well as the recent maintenance and upgrades, it's actually a pretty fair price. These cars are becoming increasingly hard to find in this kind of shape, and the value is only going to go up over time. So if you're in the market for a classic convertible that's got plenty of style, charm, and history, this 1963 Chevrolet Corvair Monza 900 might just be the one for you. With its unique mid-engine design, recent maintenance, and fun driving experience, it's sure to put a smile on your face every time you get behind the wheel. Don't miss out on the chance to own a piece of automotive history that's ready to hit the road and turn some heads. 16. We've got a real beauty for you. A 1969 Chevrolet Caprice two-door hardtop that's ready to hit the streets in style. This classic ride has been updated with a newer 350 engine and automatic transmission, making it a real powerhouse on the road. First things first, let's talk about the overall condition of this Caprice. The seller describes it as good, and based on the photos and description, it seems to live up to that claim. The blue paint looks clean and shiny, and the interior has been recently reupholstered, giving it a fresh and comfortable feel. Under the hood, you'll find a 350 engine that's believed to be from a 1994 model year. This newer engine is a real plus, as it likely has fewer miles and more modern technology than the original power plant. Paired with the automatic transmission, this Caprice is ready to provide a smooth and reliable driving experience. One of the real selling points of this Caprice is the fact that it still has all the original components for the air conditioning system. While the AC isn't currently installed, having all the parts means that a savvy buyer could get it up and running again without too much trouble. And let's talk about those wheels. The Dayton 100-spoke wire wheels are an absolute stunner. They give this Caprice a real low-rider vibe and are sure to turn heads wherever you go. Plus, with a clear title in hand, you can be confident that you're getting a legitimate ride. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, what about the mileage? Well, with 86,000 miles on the odometer, this Caprice is no spring chicken. But for a car that's over 50 years old, that's actually pretty low mileage. And with the newer engine and transmission, you can be confident that this car has plenty of life left in it. Of course, as with any used car, it's always a good idea to give it a thorough inspection before making a purchase. The seller mentions that they're open to trades, but no bikes or boats, so if you've got another classic ride you're looking to swap, this could be a great opportunity. Overall, this 1969 Chevrolet Caprice two-door hardtop is a real gem. With its updated engine and transmission, recent upholstery, and stunning wire wheels, it's got all the makings of a true lowrider classic. And at $11,000, it's priced fairly for a car of this caliber. 17. We've got an absolute gem for you. A 1966 Ford Falcon Ranchero that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. This classic beauty is a true rarity, with only 65,000 original miles on the odometer and a production number that's much lower than the more common 1967 model. First things first, let's talk about the overall condition of this Ranchero. The seller describes it as excellent, and based on the photos and description, it's easy to see why. The black paint looks sleek and shiny, and the custom-lit console and bucket seats, which were ordered right in the showroom, give the interior a real wow factor. Under the hood, you'll find a powerful 289 V8 engine that's ready to roar. Paired with an automatic transmission and a new bed liner, this Ranchero is ready to haul in style. And with new tires and rims, it's got the perfect stance for cruising down the highway or turning heads at a car show. One of the real selling points of this Ranchero is the fact that it has absolutely no rust. That's a real rarity for a car that's nearly 60 years old, and it's a testament to the care and attention that's been given to this vehicle over the years. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, no air conditioning or power windows? But let's be real. This is a classic car, and those modern conveniences weren't really a thing back in 1966. Plus, with only 65,000 miles on the odometer, this Ranchero has been preserved in a way that few other cars of its era have. And let's talk about the price. At $12,700, this Ranchero is an absolute steal. These classic cars are becoming more and more valuable every year, and finding one in this kind of condition with such low mileage is a real score. Of course, as with any used car, it's always a good idea to give it a thorough inspection before making a purchase. But based on the seller's description and the photos provided, This Ranchero seems like it's in absolutely fantastic shape. So, if you're in the market for a classic ride that's sure to turn heads and appreciate in value over time, this 1966 Ford Falcon Ranchero might just be the one for you. With its powerful V8 engine, custom interior, and low mileage, it's a true gem that's ready to be loved by a new owner. Just keep in mind, the seller is only interested in serious buyers, and they're not looking for any trades or lowball offers. This Ranchero is located in Reno, and the seller can't drive anymore, so you'll need to be prepared to come and get it if you're the lucky new owner. 18. We've got a real blast from the past for you. A 1977 Plymouth Grand Fury Brougham that's a true survivor. This classic sedan has been around for nearly half a century, but it's still looking good and ready to hit the road. First things first, let's talk about the overall condition of this Grand Fury. The seller describes it as good, which is pretty impressive for a car that's been around for 47 years. Of course, it's important to keep in mind that good is a relative term when it comes to classic cars. This Grand Fury may have some minor imperfections or signs of age, but that's to be expected for a vehicle of this vintage. One of the real selling points of this Grand Fury is the fact that it's a true survivor. That means it hasn't been heavily modified or restored over the years. It's still largely in its original condition, which is a real rarity for a car of this age. For collectors and enthusiasts who value originality, that's a huge plus. Under the hood, you'll find a classic 8-cylinder engine that's ready to rumble. Paired with an automatic transmission and rear-wheel drive, this Grand Fury is a real throwback to the glory days of American automaking. And with only 52,500 miles on the odometer, it's clear that this car has been well cared for over the years. The white paint job looks clean and classic in the photos, and while there may be some minor imperfections or signs of age, it's still a real head-turner. The interior looks to be in good shape as well, with no major rips or tears visible in the photos. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, $5,500 for a 47-year-old car? Is it really worth it? Well, that's where the or best offer part comes in. The seller is clearly willing to negotiate on the price, and for the right buyer who appreciates the rarity and originality of this Grand Fury, it could be a real steal. Of course, as with any classic car, it's always a good idea to give it a thorough inspection before making a purchase. There may be some minor issues or repairs that need to be addressed, but that's par for the course with a vehicle of this age. Overall, this 1977 Plymouth Grand Fury Brougham is a real gem for anyone who appreciates classic American cars. With its original condition, low mileage, and classic styling, it's a true survivor that's ready to be loved by a new owner. 19. We're diving into a real gem on Craigslist, a 1968 Dodge Dart that's been tucked away in a garage for a quarter century. This beauty is up for grabs at $9,500, and let me tell you, it's got some serious potential. We're looking at a classic coupe with a clean title, sporting a custom paint job that's sure to turn heads. Under the hood, you'll find a trusty 6-cylinder engine paired with an automatic transmission, and it's even got air conditioning. Talk about luxury for its time. Now, I've got to be straight with you folks. While the seller describes the condition as excellent, there are a few things to consider. The body and interior are reportedly in great shape with no rust, which is fantastic news for a car of this age. However, it's important to note that this Dart isn't currently running. The seller is in the process of getting it back on the road, and they've already made some progress by powder coating the wheels and slapping on some fresh rubber. Given that this classic has been sitting for 25 years, it's going to need some TLC to get it purring again. You'll likely need to address all the usual suspects: fuel system, brakes, electrical components, and so on. But hey, that's part of the fun with these old beauties, right? The odometer shows 100,000 miles, which isn't too shabby for a car from '68. And here's a cool bonus. The seller also offers restoration services, powder coating, sandblasting, and even CNC plasma cutting if you want to take your project to the next level. All in all, this Dodge Dart looks like a solid starting point for someone looking to breathe new life into a classic American muscle car. Just remember, you'll need to invest some time, money, and elbow grease to get it road ready. but with some patience and dedication, you could have a real showstopper on your hands. 20. We're checking out a sweet ride from Craigslist, a 1969 Pontiac Grand Prix that's up for grabs at $14,000. Let me tell you, this classic coupe is turning heads and catching eyes. Now, I've got to be straight with you folks. The seller describes this Grand Prix as being in good condition, and from what we can see, there's a lot to like here. Under the hood, you've got a beefy 400 cubic inch engine paired with a 400 transmission, which should give you plenty of power to cruise down the highway in style. The odometer shows 98,000 miles, which isn't too bad for a car that's over half a century old. The sellers put some serious work into this beauty recently. We're talking fresh blue paint, new tires and wheels, and a brake overhaul with new rotors and drums. They've also upgraded the engine with an Edelbrock cam, carb, and intake, which should give this Grand Prix some extra oomph. But let's be real, no classic car is perfect, and this one's no exception. The seller mentions it needs a couple little things to make it super nice. They've done some recent work, including a new alternator, belts, U-joints, and some tuning, but it sounds like there's still room for improvement. The good news is that the floor pans and frame are reportedly in good shape, which is crucial for a car of this age. It's got a 3.23 rear end, which should provide a nice balance of performance and cruising comfort. Now, I've got to be honest. When a seller says a car only needs a little love, that usually means there's still some work to be done. But the great thing is, they're upfront about it. They say you can be proud to drive it as is, but with a bit more TLC, you could really take this Grand Prix to the next level. So, if you're in the market for a classic American muscle car with tons of potential, this '69 Pontiac Grand Prix might just be your ticket. It's got a clean title, a fresh look, and enough recent work to get you started. Just be prepared to put in a little more effort to make it truly shine.